Hey guys, well, you made it to the right episode because in this episode, we're gonna cover the windshield wipers. And more specifically, we are going to cover the 1968 to 1972 windshield wiper setup on the Corvette. And if you have a C3 any other year and your wipers don't work, you might as well watch this video because it's basically the same setup. The only difference on this one is there's a door that opens here and the wipers pop out. After 72, they got rid of the door, but pretty much the wiring's the same, so you might as well watch it. But I cover in depth everything in this video as far as the electrical system. So if your wipers aren't working or your door's not working, don't worry, I got you covered in this video. I will get your wipers working again. So in this video, we cover the electrical side of the windshield wipers, not the vacuum side. There's gonna be a separate video for the door opening and closing. In this video, we're gonna cover strictly the electrical components of the wipers. And in order to get the vacuum system working, that opens this door and opens the headlights, the wipers have to work first. So we're gonna get the windshield wipers working in this episode, starting right now. All right, guys, so I've been troubleshooting this for a few hours now. So the first absolute thing you gotta do is you have to test your wiper motor, which in our case we took out because ours is broken. I will show you how to test it. You can actually test it right in the car. So the first thing you wanna do is make sure your wiper motor is working. If it's not working, then, problem number one. Okay, so if you're testing the wiper motor in the car, the first thing you're gonna have to do is you can remove this thing like I did, and then you'll be able to just push in here with your finger and you can open this door up. So you gotta open up this door so the wipers can move. There, just like that. See, that's open now. And yeah, none of this stuff works in this car. It hasn't worked in probably 25 years. So we're gonna get it all working, trust me. It's all gonna work. All right, guys, so basically this is your wiper motor here. This part of it on top, so this is your pump for the sprayer for the windows, sprays water. And this part here goes to the headlights. Some of the Corvettes had a sprayer on the headlights as well. So this cover comes off like so. See, there's the whole mechanism for it. And then this unscrews. And that right there is what your motor looks like. So in our case, I can already see right here, see, this cracked and this motor is garbage. So we got a brand new one. So here it is, the brand new one. As you can see, all this is intact the way it's supposed to be, side by side. So 1969 all the way up to 1972 has the same motor. 1968, the motor is a little bit different. I believe there's a third wire, a blue or white wire that's a ground, which this one doesn't have. Otherwise, I think they're the same. So what I'm gonna do for you guys is at the bottom of this video in the description, I'm gonna have, it's gonna say 1968 windshield wiper motor, and there'll be a link and it'll link you right to it so you can buy a good one, not some cheap one. And it'll also say 1969 to 1972, and there'll be a link to those motors as well. Nice, good ones. And you can just click on the link and buy it right there, right off of Problem Solver Garage. What do you think of that? All right, guys, let me quickly show you how to hook this up. It's pretty simple once you know. So you got two positive wires. One goes to this plug on here. In our case, they're yellow. I just made this, right? And then this one goes to the middle prong, just like that, right? And then you need three negatives coming off of it. So we got two negatives sitting here, and then we got one negative connected to the body of the wiper motor, right? So what you do now is, all right, so you take your two negatives. So the left prong, so what you have to do is you have to connect a negative, so ground to the left prong first. You see that? I'm touching it to that prong. So you hold that, so that gets a negative. And now you touch the other one, the other negative, to the other prong, and watch what happens. This will unclick here. See, and you got yourself slow speed. Now, once you disconnect this one, now you got fast speed. So now what you have to do is you put this back on, slow speed again, keep holding that one, and this one comes off. See, and that catches it. And that works. So now it's in park position. Once again, just to be safe. See, that starts it up. Fast speed. Hook it back up. Slows it down. Release this one. Catches it. Done. So that works. This blower motor works. I mean wiper motor. And I mean, you can do that right inside of the vehicle. You don't even need to pull it out. But if you do need to pull it out, it's super, super easy. I'll quickly show you right now how to get it out and how to get the new one in. Okay, before we move on, I gotta cover something. So this pump for the windshield washer, so the problem with it I'm having is it's just so old and dried out and stuff. It actually doesn't really spin that good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna put this back on for now, onto the new one, because I'm worried that maybe this had something to do with this breaking, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have another episode where I in-depth repair this thing, and I'll send you the link to what kit to buy to repair it. You know, I'll show you how to test this electric magnet here. So you put power on those and it lifts this little arm, and then this spins a whole revolution, and then it sprays. This is, I believe, for headlight sprayer. Some of them don't have this. It's funny because it has it here on the motor, but on the actual car, there's no sprayers. So looks like somebody changed these at some point. So basically, we'll be able to just eliminate this part of this thing. Might be able to get a whole brand new one or just a repair kit. So like I said, that'll be a different episode. But for now, we're gonna put this thing back on just the way it is right on the car. And you can buy these little covers on eBay, like 20 bucks. So what this does is, let me show you. So you could actually just put this cover on here like this. And what that does is screw it on, right? And what that does is it eliminates this whole mechanism, and you can just go out of like, you know, a 1980 Corvette, and you can pull a reservoir, like the tank for the fluid that sprays. You can pull it out of one of those type of Corvettes, and that's actually got an electric pump right inside at the bottom of the tank, just like a modern car, right? So what you would do is you would just hook that up to right over here. Let me show you. See this plug here, blue and yellow. So what that does is inside of the car, yeah, don't mind the mess in here. So right inside of the car here, see when you press this in, that electrifies that plug. And so you could hook that up directly to electric sprayer, which we might do, or we might put the mechanical one back on. Like I said, that will be a different episode. Today's episode, we're gonna get the wipers working, and we're gonna, don't worry guys, we're gonna troubleshoot all of this. So if you're having like wipers not working problem, at the end of this video, your wipers will work. So yeah, for now, we'll just put this on. And like I said, we might go back to that later and decide. Another thing I forgot to mention is if you have a 1968 one of these and you're testing it, the third ground wire when you're testing it, so you would need to hook that up to the negative as well. I forgot to mention that. So that's a little bit different. Otherwise, pretty much the same. All right, so I mean, in order to get this on and off, it's pretty straightforward. So right here, you have a nut, which inside of here, see that's where this part goes. Pretty straightforward. So you would have unscrewed that, no big deal there. And then you only really have like 1, 2, 3 screws holding it with a nut on the other side. Those two are this direction, and the other one actually the nut's on the other side. So that's it. I'm gonna throw that on right now, guys. All right, so as you can see, we got that on. I mean, the only thing we had to really remove for room-wise is we just have to take this cap off. So we'll put that back on, and that's all good. Now, here's the important thing, guys. So this little wire here, see, it's a ground wire that connects to here. So that connects to this wire. And let me show you why. So the wiper motor, this blower motor here, and also this relay here that controls the various speeds for the blower motor. All that stuff, that, and the wiper motor, they share a ground, and the ground actually goes through this cable. You just hook that up, right? And that goes right to the blower motor, and then from the blower motor, it goes to this relay. So you gotta make sure you put a ground wire on here. And also we added this little tab, and we will get back to that later. So I'm gonna hook up that ground, put this back on, and we're gonna start the troubleshooting of the wipers. Okay guys, so all this is back together. I just wanna point out one very important thing. So this part here, don't put that on yet. Put that on last. So that way, in case this isn't parked in the right spot, you don't wanna end up putting this on backwards or something. So we're basically gonna troubleshoot everything, and then once everything's working, we're gonna put that on last and then try the wipers. Okay guys, so we're in the car. You know, the key's on, everything's hooked up, and I mean, we got absolutely nothing. So I'm gonna show you right now how to troubleshoot through it all to get it working. Okay, so the first absolute thing is this positive wire here. See this one? That goes into here. So this is supposed to have power in it all the time. Even if the key is off, it always has power in it. And the reason for that is when you turn your key off and your wipers are going, that way your wipers will still go all the way down, even if you turn your key off, right? Otherwise they would just stay up. So that gives it a constant power. So we're gonna check if this has power. Let's start with that. And in order for that to have power, there's two basically like fail safes that you gotta investigate first. So the first one is this door. If this door is closed, that doesn't get any power. There is a switch right here, see? See the switch? So what happens is, when you open this door, watch, I'll manually open it, watch. Boom, now it's pressed in. So now what happens is, see, power goes in, it closes the circuit, it goes back out, right? And one of those runs right to that. So that's first thing we gotta check for. So we got that closed. All right, let's check if it's got power. All right, so now in order to test that, you need a test light. A test light needs a positive and a negative, which is a ground. A lot of people don't even understand what a ground is, so I'm telling you. A ground is a negative. The whole entire car is negative, and then you have positives going around. So if you touch one of these wires, it doesn't matter which one, from a light like that, and then you touch your other one to the engine, which is the ground, the negative, this should light up if it's getting power. And it's not. All right, so if it's not getting power, I'll show you the other thing that could cause it not to get power, which is inside the car. Okay guys, so right here under the dash by your feet is a wiper switch override switch. Right here, see, ours is broken. All of these are broken, but so this here, what this does is, if your wipers are moving, like, you know, up and down, so you can cut the power here and make your wipers stop. So that way you could like change your blades or whatever. That's what that does. It's basically the only way to make your wipers stop in up position. So I'll show you how to test this switch. So this electricity has to flow basically from this wire, and it has to go through the switch and keep flowing back, and then that will get power up there. I'm guessing the switch is broken, so let's go try it out. I already unhooked it earlier. Okay guys, so I mean, this is a very simple test. You just need a voltmeter, and you can set it on, for example, this like arrow with a plus sign on it, see? So what that does is, see, it's at 1, right? But when you take your two wires here that come out of the voltmeter and you touch them together, see, watch what happens. See, now it drops to 0, which means electricity is flowing from this to this. See, watch, 0. So that's one good way to test it. So what we got to do now is, so on the inside of the switch here, you touch one to there and the other one to there, see? And look at that, we found our problem. It's not going to 0, which means electricity is not flowing from this to that, and there's no way to switch it on because it's broken. So we have two choices. One, we could bypass this, cut these two wires and just twist them together, and then that'll be like the switch being on. Or choice number 2 is to get a brand new switch, which we already have. And guess what, guys? So the 1968 Corvette has a specific switch. 1969 has a specific switch for cars with AC and cars without AC. And then 1970 all the way to 1972 have another switch. So there's basically 4 different switches. And don't worry, in the description of this video, there'll be a link at the bottom, and you can just click on the link and you can purchase the right switch for your car just like that. Don't worry, it's all on me. Anyways, I'll show you how to test it now properly. Okay guys, so now we take the new switch and do the exact same test. Touch one to there, one to there, and boom, look at that. Right down to 0, which means electricity is flowing through it very well. Let's see if we turn it off. Nothing. All right, turn it back on. Flowing again. All right, let's put this thing on. Hopefully that fixes the positive issue. So now we take some dielectric grease, put it inside of the plug so it never corrodes. Good stuff. Get some. I recommend it. See, just like that, and just squeeze it in there. All right, let's plug this new switch in. Okay, new switch is in. Just be careful that these don't touch any negative anywhere or it'll short out. We're gonna attach this properly later. For now, we'll even put a piece of electrical tape on it just so it's safe. Okay, let's go try it up top. Okay guys, we got our light hooked onto the positive. Let's see if it works. You touch it to the motor for negative, and boom, look at that. We got power, guys. Okay guys, I decided to show you one more thing. So in order to test this switch that's controlled by this door, right? So you have your light bulb hooked up, positive to there, negative to the motor. And let's see what happens when we start closing this. See, look at that, see? And then when we open it, so that switch also works. So we got basically 2 things completely troubleshooted and good to go. So let's move on. So now we just plug that wire right into our wiper motor. Okay guys, so we're back in the car and still nothing. Keys on, everything's good to go. So I'll show you why, because I've already figured it out. So on these plastic cars, 90% of the time, if something's not working, it is your ground, which means your negatives. Your negatives is what fails on these cars, and the entire systems stop working. So I'll show you right now. So this entire body of the wiper motor is supposed to have a ground going to it, which it doesn't have. There's no ground on this. And there's also, like, remember how I told you it shares the ground with that relay and the blower motor? So none of that system works because it has a bad ground somewhere, meaning it doesn't have a ground, or it actually has a weak, bad ground. So I noticed when I'm inside the car, and I mean, I've already figured this out in a previous episode where we worked on the heater system. I got an episode where I go over that whole heater box, all the blend doors in there. It's a very good episode. You should check it out. There'll be a link at the end of this video. So I noticed, right, when I turned my blower motor on, it doesn't really work good. And I ended up figuring it out that it didn't have a good ground. So I remembered about that. So I'll show you how to test for that right now really quickly. So you grab yourself a set of booster cables and you take the black cable and you find yourself a nice bare metal spot, like right there on the body of the car, which will be the negative. It's like the same thing as hooking it up directly to the negative of the battery. See, so you hook that up like that, and then you got yourself a nice solid ground on that wire, right? And then you take your other side of the booster cable, this one right here, right? So that's the other end of it, and you just hook it up to the body of this motor, see? So now you're gonna have a ground going from your body of your car into this, right? It travels through this wire, goes to that relay, goes to the blower motor box, everything. So let's go inside and see if the blower motor works now. All right, so we're back inside. So there you go. Since those are connected together, if the blower motor had a bad ground, that means the wipers also had a bad ground. Okay guys, so I took the booster cables back off. I just want to show you that a voltmeter is not a good tool to check for grounds. So, you put it on 20 volts, right? So let me show you why. Because even if you have a bad ground, right? Like a weak ground, but it's still there. So that's kind of what's going on here. Like this thing does have a ground. Watch, I'll show you. So if I connect the red one to the positive, right? And then I connect this to the body, it's still showing me that it has power, right? Just like if I connect it to the motor. But I know this ground's weak because when I hook up the booster cables to this, everything works. And when they're not hooked up, it doesn't, right? I've already played around with this. A better way to test this is to use a light bulb. See, when using a light bulb, when I touch that to the engine, which is grounded, it's super bright. I can barely look at it, right? But when I touch it to the body here, it's actually, like it's maybe hard to tell on the camera here, but it's actually really, really dim. So it does not have a good ground, see? So the voltmeter still read 12 volts, but it's weak. It's a weak ground. So I'll show you what to do to fix that. So you're gonna have to get yourself a wire and these kind of connectors, right? Remember how I put this on there? So we're just gonna slide that on there, right? And then we're gonna run the other side of this wire and we're gonna just hook it right up to the frame of the car somewhere. And then we'll have a nice good ground to this and everything else. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay guys, so I got the ground nice and hooked up here. See, it runs in one of these so it's all protected. And that's gonna go just right there. See, and I cleaned it out to bare metal. And there's gonna be a nut and bolt going all the way through that so it's got a good solid clean ground. Okay guys, keys on. Let's test it again. And still nothing. And I'll show you why. So let's go over what we did so far. So we put an extra ground to the motor. That's good now. We checked that switch. It works. So that's good now. We made sure it's getting power on the positive, which it is. So that's good now. Now I'll show you inside what the problem on these is as well. So all these instrument panels in here and everything, see, all these have grounds going to them as well. So like this is grounded out because it is a plastic car, right? So normally you would attach, a bolt to this and it would just be grounded out, but this is all plastic. So there's basically like ground wires going to this. There's a ground wire going to that. There's a ground wire going to that. There's even a little metal piece right here. See, that connects those two together to let the ground go through. And see, this switch here actually needs to be grounded out in order for it to work. So a very common problem on these is, see right here how this just broke off right there and right there. So like that whole switch part, sits kind of like this on here, and it gets its ground from basically like being connected to this, but here it's broken off. So what we got to do is we got to add a ground to this, to the whole case, to this whole metal case. Watch, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we got the switch here. So we got same thing. We got the other side of this hooked up to the negative. So to the frame of the car, we're going to hook that up right there like that. And now, you ready? Watch this. There we go. I can hear it spinning. Let's see if maximum speed works. Okay, now it's back in park. So the wipers are in down position. So now I know it's set right, so we can attach the wipers. And what we got to do is put an extra ground to that. So that's what we're going to do, just the same way we did on the wiper motor. And also, just so you guys know, so this relay here is the wiper relay, and it also has something to do with the air conditioning too. So that might be shot, but ours is working because I just tested everything. And this gets its ground it actually gets it from that case. So this for sure has to be grounded. So if this has a good ground, then the relay gets a ground and everything starts to work. Ground is negative, right? Okay, so just for experiment reasons, I hooked up the booster cable to this, so it's getting the ground from that thing there, and I hooked the other one up to this, and guess what? So that works too. See what I mean? Oh, the speeds seem to be working. All right, so we're gonna hook up a ground wire to this bolt here, and then we're gonna hook it up somewhere back here. We'll find a nice juicy spot. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll have a test of the wipers, see if everything works. Okay guys, so see what we did here? We just hooked up a wire like that to it. You just wanna get a knife or some sandpaper and clean these really good so they're nice and clean. And then another thing we did is we jammed some dielectric grease in there and moved this around, so this moves perfectly good now, nice and smooth. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna put a link in the description for one of these switches, and it's gonna be labeled right to what year it's for. Okay, let's move inside the car. And also when you're putting this plug in, put dielectric grease on there. I'll show you the direction of that plug because that also matters. Okay guys, so on the back of this now, so we got the switch up there. So on the back of this, see right here, there's like a screw like that. So that will make a perfect spot for a ground. So we'll just put that there, and then we got a nice solid ground going to that. Okay, we got that all done. Now for the final thing, this plug, see there's like a tab sticking out of it, and there's a tab sticking out there. So it's like you don't line up the tabs, you put them opposite of each other. It's funny because you can accidentally put it on the wrong way. So that goes on like that, and that should be good to go. All right, guys, I mean, we got everything hooked up. We're basically ready to try these wipers. In our case, we're good now. But if yours still weren't working after doing all the troubleshooting we just went through, so another thing you might want to look at is changing that relay right there under the radio. They are car specific, so you'd have to investigate that. And also, inside of your fuse box here, obviously, you know, check your fuses. Maybe you got a blown fuse, things like that. And if you've learned anything today from this video, so for example, if none of your lights work in one of these when the car's running, chances are this isn't getting a ground. So you could just add a ground to this, add a ground to that. You get what I'm saying? 95% of the time in these cars, the grounds are the issue. So hopefully that helped you out. All right, let's test these wipers. All right, here goes nothing. You know what? Now that I got your attention, before we try them, throw me a subscription if you want. But if you're not gonna do that, at least throw me a thumbs up. Those only take a second, and they're actually very important when it comes to YouTube rating your videos. So at least do that favor for me. All right, let's try these wipers. Oh yeah, guys, I'm really sorry. Just one more thing. So when you push this in, right, that sprays your windshield with water, which is this plug here. So we just hooked up a light bulb to it. So that way we can test and make sure that circuit works too. Okay, now let's test these wipers. All right, speed one, here we go. It's alive! It's alive! All right, speed two. It's alive! All right, let's see if they park. Boom, and they retract. Okay, let's see if the bulb lights up for the sprayer. Look at that. And when I let go, perfect. Look at that. Super easy to hook up a sprayer. Remember, guys, the next episode is going to be the vacuum systems for this whole controlling arm here, and the vacuum systems for the lights opening and closing. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Tom, the problem solver. Hopefully, this video helped you out. See you later.